Shalom. I would like to give all reverence, due benevolence, worship, honor, praise, and glory unto the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai. I want to exhort Israel, speaking to you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indian peoples, to keep the commandments of God according to the Holy Bible. The commandments are life, and by keeping them and embracing the whole Word of God, this will work toward the reformation of your soul, your salvation, and will punch you a one-way ticket into the kingdom of heaven. You may be new to the faith. You may be someone who has heard about, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans being Israelites, but you were on the fence about it. You didn't know if the information that you were being privy to was accurate. Or you may be someone who has a leg or two in this thing already. Wherever you're at in this walk, it is very important that you constantly read the scriptures, that you read the law and find ways to better yourself and adhere to them as much as possible. My messages are more geared toward those who are just coming in or may not even necessarily know about our people being the true Israelites according to the Bible, and not the people who are in the land today, in the land of Israel today, who are the people of Amalek. They're the descendants of Amalek, and they stole our identity and they're posing as us. That being said, seeing that my messages are more catered toward those who are just coming into this, seeing that I remember the days in which I was first made privy to who I was according to the scriptures, my identity, my heritage, and just reflecting on the way in which I began to turn my life around as best as I possibly could, and I'm still a work in progress. I thought I'd share ways that you can do the same. Now, there are hundreds of commandments that are required to be kept, but you have to start somewhere, right? So a great place to start would be to abstain from blood. Israel has a dietary law that we have to keep, and it forbids us from eating certain foods, eating certain animals, but it also forbids us from eating blood. So if you are a meat eater, if you are a carnivore and you like to eat things like steaks, burgers, sushi, you have to be very careful in how you eat these foods. So before I go in length, I'll get it straight out of the commandments. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 7, and verse number 26. It says, "Moreover, ye shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be of fowl or of beast, in any of your dwellings." Verse number 27, "Whatsoever soul it be that eateth any manner of blood, even that soul shall be cut off from his people." So this is very serious. We're not supposed to eat blood. So again, if you're someone who loves a nice medium rare cut of steak, and I put that word nice in quotation marks, and you're serious about embracing your true heritage and coming out of all these schools of thought, philosophies that have taught you that you're African or you're worthless from either end of the spectrum. If you're coming out of these belief systems and schools of thought, as I just mentioned, and you're really serious about making the Most High God and His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, the center of your life, then you're going to want to entertain cooking your meats differently, ordering your foods differently. And by entertain, I mean you're going to want to do this. Entertain it as in bring it into your household and treat it like a a well-received guest who you don't want to leave. We're not supposed to eat any manner of blood. So if you're getting a burger, I'm just going to keep it real as it is in everyday situations. If you go into your favorite burger spot, let's say you're going to Five Guys or you're going to wherever it is, and you want a cheeseburger, you have to specifically tell the fry cooks that you want your burger well done, cooked all the way through. The same thing for steaks. If you're going to Outback Steakhouse, or if you're going to, I don't even know the most famous steakhouses if you got it like that. But wherever you're going to a restaurant, you want a nice cut of steak, you got to get that steak well done. Not medium well, because medium well still has traces of blood. It's just very faint. Definitely not medium. Certainly not medium rare. 100% not rare. And if you like your steak blue, then this may not be for you. So I'll move to the book of Genesis chapter 9 and verse number 4. And it reads, but flesh with the... Matter of fact, I'm going to start at verse 3. This is Genesis chapter 9 and verse 3. It says, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. The Lord is telling it simply and plain right there. This was right after Noah got out of the ark with his 3 sons and their wives. The Lord had to lay the groundworks. He had to lay the ground rules. This is what you can do and what you can't do. And one of the things that Noah and his sons could not do and had to teach unto their posterity was not to eat blood. That's one of the first things that the Lord commanded Noah after making his covenant with him. He said, you cannot eat any manner of blood. Why? Because the blood thereof is the life thereof. So blood carries life force. So we're not supposed to be eating blood for that reason. And we know that the life force of man is his spirit. And beasts have spirits as well, which you can read about in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3. So not only is a commandment given unto Israel, but there's also reason behind it. You may be saying, okay, well, why do I have to abstain from eating blood? I like my steak a certain way. I don't want to do that. Well, you better want to do it. And you, more importantly, you better do it. If this is, again, what you're really serious about doing. This message will not appeal to everybody, but it's only meant for those who are meant to get it. It's only meant for the elect of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Simple and plain. If your spirit is working toward that form of reformation and this is something that you want to undertake, then in my humble opinion, speaking as a man, I couldn't really think of an easier commandment to start keeping. You could start keeping the Sabbath, but if you have a job where you have to work overnights on Friday, boom, you have a conundrum on your hands. Not to say that you shouldn't evaluate your situation and try to, if it's possible, work towards getting out of that work schedule as soon as possible so you can start keeping the Shabbat from Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown every week. No working, no buying, no selling, no kindling a fire in your habitation. But in this captivity that we're in Babylon the Great and these kingdoms around the world, that's something that may take some time to implement into your life, even though it's a very easy and very easy commandments are keeping. That doesn't require you to spend any money or go anywhere or do anything really. You could also start keeping the high holy days. That's another one. And that too is something that you could pick up right away. Because there are other commandments, like you have to have a shofar that you blow on every new moon and on the Feast of Trumpets. And you may be someone who's dirt poor. And so you may have to wait a moment before you can afford to buy a shofar, whatever the case may be. Moving on, this is the book of Acts, chapter 15. And in the book of Acts here, the apostles were dealing with a controversy because there were some who believed that in order for the Gentiles, being the northern kingdom, to be reconciled unto the Father, that they had to be circumcised. But the apostles felt as though that would be a heavy commandment for a Gentile who was trying to return unto the Lord to just take up right away because of factors that need not even be fleshed out. No pun intended. No pun intended. You understand? So this is the book of Acts, chapter 15. And I'll just get straight to the point. This is verse 5. It says, "But there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees which believed, saying that it was needful to circumcise them and to command them to keep the law of Moses. And the apostles and elders came together for to consider this matter." Jumping down to verse number 19. It says, "Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God, but that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from things strangled and from blood." So the apostles here were saying that those 4 commandments to keep were a great entry point into the Gentiles turning their lives around and putting off the idolatrous customs and practices that they were keeping. That's not from my mouth. That's from the Word of God. That's from the Scriptures. Abstaining from blood. And it's really not hard. 1 John chapter 5, verse 3 tells us that the love of God is keeping his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. They're not troublesome. Just to summarize. So if you're someone with an extremely picky palate, then maybe you would want to scale back on that. If you're someone who always wants to keep meats as a part of your diet, then you're going to need to eat your foods cooked all the way through. And just to go over some of the foods that may not be so obvious, like steak and burgers, sushi. If you go to a restaurant, you get a roll of sushi, that's raw fish. So even though they prepare it so where you're not staring at blood, you don't know if there are traces of blood content in that sushi. You don't know if there's traces of blood in the tuna or whatever fish it is that you're eating. And even a little bit that's within the flesh itself will cause you to fall into transgression if you're eating that. So if you're gonna eat sushi, then you have to make sure that sushi's cooked. You may say, okay, well, that defeats the purpose. Well, tough. And it's not grievous because I'm sure if you really wanted to, cooked fish tastes just as good as raw fish. Get creative, find creative ways to prepare your foods. The same thing goes for things like eggs, for example. Eggs carry traces of blood. So if you want to adhere to the law as best as possible, make sure you cook your eggs all the way through, that you're not eating runny eggs or Like Eggs Benedict, for example, which when you pierce through it, the entire yolk is just falling out. Got to be mindful of these things. The commandments come first, Israel. So again, if you're someone who just heard about the scriptures, heard that, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are Israelites, and you're serious about starting this journey, again, I can't really think of something that's you could implement right on the spot more swiftly than that. So if you're watching this video and it's almost dinner time, or it's almost breakfast time, you should be moved to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll cook whatever it is that I'm chefing up a little bit more thorough, whether it's salmon or whatever it is that you're cooking. Or if you're about to go out to a restaurant and the weekend's coming up and you want to go out to a restaurant on Saturday night or on Sunday because you're supposed to keep Shabbat, so you can't be going out to restaurants on Friday nights or during the day on Saturday. If you're about to go to a restaurant and you're hyped to try a whole bunch of different meats, you may have to say to yourself, hey, you know what? Let me make sure I tell the waiter, I want my steak well done. I want my burger well done. And soon you'll realize that, number one, it's well worth it. Number two, it's very tasty nonetheless. And number three, that, hey, most importantly, you're keeping the law and you're doing what's pleasing in the eyes of the Most High. His commandments aren't grievous. Keep the law, Israel. Abstain from blood. With that, I say shalom, Israel, shalom.